Let's go for it!
Whoa. Hey everybody, didn't see you there. It's me, your buddy Dave, the host of The Dark Stuff. Thanks a lot for checking in for this new video. It's my first new video in about 6 weeks or so. It's been hard to get motivated to do these videos. You know, part of it is time, and then part of it is just I have to be in the right frame of mind. I mean, I don't know about you guys when you make videos, if you do make videos on YouTube, but even if I want to make a video, or I intend to, you know, I have some new pickups I'd like to show off, or I saw some cool concert and I'd like to talk about. If I'm not in the right mental place or the right frame of mind, I just can't get in front of the camera and just do it. You know, I come up with a million reasons why I don't, and I just have to be in the right place. And when it finally is there, and I'm ready to do it, I sit down and in pretty much one take, I just sit there and do it. I don't. You know, just so you know, I don't work from notes or whatever. I do set out what I am going to talk about on the side of the desk here next to me. And before, if I have concert footage I'm going to show, I basically watch that really quickly before I film the video so it's fresh in my mind. But that's all the prep I do. But again, I have to be in a mood to sit here and talk to the camera for 30 minutes, because sometimes I just don't want to. When it's my radio show, I have to. Every single week, I have to have a show completed by Thursday afternoon for Sunday's show. So no matter what, if it's Thursday morning and I don't have anything, I have to sit there and just force myself to do it. There's no way to do that with this, because the Dark Stuff is just kind of free form. I don't get paid to do it. It's just for fun. And so that tends to get put by the way to the side, unfortunately. And then mentally, sometimes I just don't want to extend the energy, because after doing the video, then I go back and it's hours and hours of editing. Now again, that's unnecessary, but I want to do it because that's part of what I enjoy doing. I mean, this part is me chatting with you guys is cool and talking about the records, but I also do get something out of the editing. It is sort of fun for me, and finding little things to insert and slow down this and zoom in on that or whatever. And I think it's part of an interesting part of the process for me. So anyways, now that I've thoroughly bored you to death with my process talk, let's talk about what we got on this video. So right at the beginning of the video, you saw a little bit of David Nance performing. I don't have to tell you who he is. He's becoming a really internationally known guy. In fact, that show, I don't even remember who he was opening for. It was just a night of solo guitar players, and he went on first, played about 15-20 minutes. He had just gotten back from his his international tour. I think he went to Australia and Europe. In fact, I know he went to Australia. I think Europe too. Australia was solo, and then Europe with a band. So he had just gotten back to the States, and I think this was his first or second show since he'd been back. A little clip of that. I've also got live material coming up from some of my favorite bands, including this one here, Swervedriver. Okay, this is a Swervedriver coffee mug I picked up at the show. They're on tour with Failure. I caught that show a few days ago. I caught Ex-Hex the other night, and opening for them was another band on the Sub Pop label called Moaning, who I wasn't really familiar with, even though I did have one of their CDs, but I didn't remember it. And they were really good, so that was pretty interesting. Also, there was an Omaha record show a couple weeks ago that I want to show something from, and one of Omaha's most infamous record stores closed its doors after 37 years in the business, and they were doing a half-off sale of everything in the store. Now, you probably are familiar with Hannah's channel, the Omaha Introvert, and she's done multiple videos on this subject, and I did see her there, but I wasn't able to get the video done, and so now stuff's been here for kind of a while, but whatever. So I can't do a whole video devoted to that, but again, it was cool seeing somebody from the VC out in the real world. I know Derek because we're friends and stuff, so I see him every now and again, but that's it. So she was only the second VC person that I've ever encountered just out in the wild. Anyways, so let's move on. Okay, like I stated, a legendary local record store called Drastic Plastic closed its doors after 37 years in business. Now, if you've been watching my videos for years, you know I kind of had a falling out with the guys that run Drastic Plastic because they were like super rude to me, or one person in particular was, when I was being perfectly nice and asking about a record and trying to buy it from them, and they were just total dicks. But anyways, I didn't want them to go out of business. I wanted the store to still exist. I like them on Record Store Day because they had less lines and their stuff was focused on more kind of what I like. But whatever, they're closed down. They closed down both of their stores at the same day. And they did extend their thing outward a little bit, because initially they were going to close, I think, on March 17th. Then they extended it to March 24th, 7 days later. So I got to make a couple of trips down there. And again, everything, CD, T-shirt, vinyl, doohickeys, whatever the hell they sell, everything 50% off. So let's run through what I got. I got this Yuck record called Glow and Behold. Okay, now I haven't opened it yet, obviously, but I do have the CD, so I've already heard it. But again, for $8, brand new, I decided it was worth it. Now I picked up a copy of Sonic Youth, NYC, Ghost and Flowers. And the thing about this one is, and you know what, I just noticed there's we'll copy the slipcover, which was supposed to be a digital download, which expired, by the way, before I even got it, but neither here nor there. So I've always considered this to be my least favorite Sonic Youth album. I mean, I'm such a major fan. I close every radio show that I do for the past 14 years with a Sonic Youth song, but this was just one that I didn't really like at the time. So I decided to reevaluate it. With the vinyl being half price, I picked it up. So, I mean, I wanted this download so I could listen to it in the car and I could integrate it into my radio show. But the download had expired, and I listened to the album, and it wasn't nearly as bad as I remembered it. And I didn't remember it being bad. It's just less tuneful Sonic Youth, more kind of weird and experimental, which they were in the early 80s, and then they kind of became that again in the early 2000s. Since I couldn't get it digitally, when I went back to Drastic Plastic the second time, I found it on CD, so this time it was only $4. So I did buy it twice, you know, but I mean, I did need to have it digitally, but again, it was cheap enough that it was not really a big deal having to buy it twice. Although I was pissed and I didn't really want to do it. Okay, I got this EP from Priests on the Don Giovanni record label. And I've talked about these guys. They were on my stage one time at the Omaha Festival. They were excellent, loved it. And then they're coming here to town sometime, I think, at the end of this month or maybe the beginning of next month, and I'll be definitely checking them out. They're a great, like, political punk band from DC. Okay, a couple of stone cold punk classics. We're still sitting in the racks. What are you doing, Omaha record buyers? How did you not pick up this Richard Hell and the Voidoids Blank Generation? I mean, are you serious? I've wanted this on vinyl for a long time. It's not an original. It's obviously a repress, but whatever. And then Kill City from Iggy Pop and James Williamson, a.k.a. what would have been the third Stooges album. I got the deluxe expanded edition of the Cars Panorama. This is a really misunderstood Cars album. I remember back in the day when I was a kid, I didn't like it. But again, I didn't understand really what the Cars were going for on that record. They were going deeper into stranger sounds and you know, it's their new wave album, but that's like a dumb categorization. The only songs you might have heard off this one were Touch and Go, Don't Tell Me No, perhaps, and maybe the song Panorama. But after having two massive hit records in the late 70s, they came into the 80s and put this out. And of course, it didn't do quite as well. And the record company freaked out. And the next year they put out, Shake It Up. So they were back to churning out the hits. But that's a really good record regardless. And then last was the 2 CD version of Johnny Thunder's classic, Like a Motherfucker, which oddly enough, I've never actually even owned. I mean, I used to have a copy of it, like a blank tape, But it's got the original version of the album, or I should say the remastered version, and then the alternate mix, demos, and rehearsals, along with a pretty nice booklet and a lot of cool stuff. So it's definitely worth having. And again, I think this was like $8 because it was, again, everything 50% off. So it's a sad state of affairs that all these record stores are closing. I think I've maybe addressed the idea that we've hit peak vinyl. And what I mean by that is, some of you will understand it, and I'm probably going to have a very rudimentary explanation, but the way supply and demand works, it's almost like a big curve, right? And we're looking at supply, you hit the peak where your supply and your demand purposely are perfectly matched. And then at some point, demand goes down, and then supply and it's over, okay? People talk about we've reached peak oil, meaning our supply is already on the decline, and so, but we're still using it at such a rapid rate and whatever. And again, that probably doesn't make a ton of sense, and I'm missing certain details, but I'm not a scientist, guys. I sell shit. I don't know. So I think we've hit peak vinyl, and that's why people are already starting to fall off. Some of the new folks. We're seeing the exploitation of the vinyl fan in the extreme. Record Store Day is no longer anything about independent artists. It's all about, Sony and Warner Brothers churning out the same classic rock albums in new forms for double, triple the price. So the whole thing is sort of over. But for people who have always been into vinyl or have never abandoned it, this is going to be a good time over the next couple of years because we're going to find a lot of deals. There's going to be a lot more 50% off. There's going to be a lot more cutouts. There's going to be a lot. We haven't even experienced cutouts yet, right? Because that isn't even a thing at this point in time. Okay, and then a couple days after the Drastic Plastic thing, there was an Omaha record show. Now, since I'd already spent a lot of money within a week of that record show because of the Drastic Plastic closing, I gave myself a $100 limit, and it was like, I hope I don't even get anywhere near close to spending it at this record show. I went early this time, which is probably I shouldn't have done because I do experience mild claustrophobia, and there were just so many people there. And you know how it is when you're like looking in a rack and there's another person here, and then this idiot over here starts reaching into your stack, like totally violating your personal space and just being like all on you and shit. And it drives me insane, and it makes me want to leave those things. So I had to keep backing out of dealers that I was looking through their shit because these idiots were just all on me, and I couldn't take it. So I had to move to a couple other places and find stuff. But I did. I got one CD, and that's this one from Bear Jr. called Brainwasher. This is Bobby Bear Jr., who's now in Guided by Voices, but this was one of his albums from the early 2000s. Haven't listened to it yet, but I like the two other Bobby Bear records that I've picked up. So Bobby Bear Jr. records that I picked up. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to like this one too. Couple of 7 inches, Tubeway Army, aka Gary Newman, and this one is Our Friends Electric and We're So Fragile. This was cool. This was just a couple of bucks, and I thought it looked awesome. I got this Stones one, Hang Fire, from the Tattoo You album, mostly because the packaging was cool. I think it was only $2, so it wasn't really a big deal. Missing Persons, Color in Your Life, not their best album, but now I have all of their stuff on vinyl, so pretty decent. Glad that I had it. I paid like $5 or $6 for it, and then when I checked, there's a 99-cent sticker from Goodwill on the back. So I don't know. I guess that's the way record dealers are. What they make to try to make money on stuff. But I wish I'd seen that before. I might have tried to bargain a little bit. I picked up this one. Nilsson Sings Newman. This sounded really interesting, having Harry Nilsson sing the songs of Randy Newman. And I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. It was just a more interesting idea. This came out in 1970. This I had to pick up because the second I saw it, I was like, I'm getting it. Soundtrack to the movie Tapeheads. If you're a rock music fan and you've never seen this movie, drop what you're doing and find it. Whether it's on, I don't know if it's on like Amazon or Netflix or YouTube or whatever, but this is a great movie featuring, starring Tim Robbins and John Cusack. It's back in the 80s. These guys are video makers. They kind of revive a Sam and Dave type R&B group, which is their favorite band, and they try to get them onto this famous music festival that they're going to do the video for and stuff, and it's just great. And the soundtrack features like Fishbone, Devo, and then Bo Diddley, let's see, and then a bunch of songs by this fake group called the Swanky Modes.
We love the Swanky Modes.
And I don't know who really the Swanky Modes are, but in the video, I think it's Sam and Dave, and they're just calling themselves the Swanky Modes from back in the day. But anyways, cool stuff. Tapeheads. 12-inch for Sonic Youth for Disappear. Again, it's Sonic Youth. It's a collector's item, for me anyways. Chuck Berry, Back Home. Nice collection. This makes about 10 or 12 Chuck Berry albums I have on vinyl. And then lastly, my favorite Costello album, which I didn't have on vinyl, Blood and Chocolate. This one's so good. It was only $5. It's worth actually more than that in perfect shape, and it's in really good shape. The vinyl looks good too, but this is the album that made me an Elvis Costello fan, and it still is my favorite thing that he's ever done, bar none. And this album is just amazing. So I happily paid $5 to get this on vinyl. So that was David Nance playing the title track to his More Than Enough record from a couple years ago. It was a really cool, though very, very brief set. He played again, opening for this this African guitar player, Madhu Makhtar, or something like that. I'll find it. Sorry, I sound like an idiot now. And I wasn't able to get into the show. The show sold out. It was in this tiny, tiny little club, and I had 2 or 3 people tell me I have to go see this guy. And I heard it was awesome, but I was just not able to get in. So, didn't have any connections in that particular venue or that show, so I wasn't able to make it. But I'll see Nance again, of course, a number of times since he does, in fact, live here. Next up, though, was the Swervedriver Failure Show. Now, before I get to the Swervedriver Failure Show and show you some of the clips that I've got from that, let me just give you a brief update on my past video from a little while back where I talked about how Pledge Music are a bunch of, I don't know, shysters or corrupt. I mean, whatever. Their business is so fucking ridiculous. I've now asked for a refund 3 separate times. They won't give me my money back. They give me the same spiel about they're trying to reorganize or what have you. I even told them in my response, do not respond to me by telling me the problems that your business is having. Give me my money back. I paid in 2017. It's 2019. I still don't have the record. It's out. It's been out since January. They should just rescind the whole thing, give Swervedriver, I mean, whatever they got to do. But I still don't have the record, bottom line. Since I got the CD for the radio show, I've been playing the crap out of it on my radio show, and their record company, Danger Bird, sent me a little note here thanking me for playing it, and they gave me a Swervedriver slip mat, which is cool, and a whole bunch of stickers, you know, which I imagine I owe some people some VCLTs, so I'll be sliding those in any future packages that I get. I'm keeping the slip mat for myself, though, because I do think that's super, super cool. So Swervedriver is on a tour with Failure, both, again, 90s bands that broke up at the tail end of the 90s. Both almost made it in America, but didn't quite. Failure, I think, got a little bit closer to more of a mainstream hit, perhaps, than Swervedriver ever did. But the two of them are touring together because they're both reformed after extended absences. They've both actually made really great music since they've come back. So it is fitting that the two bands would tour together. Unfortunately, when you take two bands that never quite made it and still have very cult followings, you put the two together and it doesn't exactly expand the audience in any real way, you know? So I guess that was my long-winded way of saying that the attendance was not great. They played in Lincoln, Nebraska, which is about an hour drive from where I live. And they played in this place called the Bourbon Theater, really cool theater, and it holds about 900 people. And there were maybe 150, 200 people there maximum at the show. So unfortunately, it was probably kind of a financial bloodbath for the promoter, because I don't think Failure comes cheap. I mean, they have a bigger production than you would think for a band that plays in front of, 150, 200 people. They should be playing in arenas, but I mean, we all know that's not always the way it works for bands. Unfortunately, it's not always about your merits or whatever. But anyways, the Swervedriver set was great. They came out. They didn't have a super fancy light show or anything. They just were kind of there playing the tunes. They did mostly stuff off their two most recent comeback albums. They did do something off 99th Dream. They went back as far as the Rays album. Oh, no, they didn't do anything from the Rays album. They did go back to their Mezcal Head album, which is their second album, and they played the song Duel towards the end of the set, which was a personal highlight for me anyways. So this was the third time I got to see Swervedriver. I did see them once back in their original run in the 90s, and then I've seen them twice, once on their original reunion tour, 2008 or so, maybe 2009, and then this time again more than 10 years later, in 2019. But I will say this: when you're talking about shoegaze music and extremely high volume, noisy kind of bands that survive on live on fuzz, it's now a whole lot easier to put that kind of music out in a live format. The technology is gotten better. When I saw Swervedriver in the 90s, it was so loud and it was so distorted, it just came out as like white noise. All you could hear is just this, very little to distinguish it. It's the same when I saw Sugar with Bob Mould. It was just white noise. You could barely distinguish anything because the volume was so extreme, and the sound technology maybe wasn't there for that kind of music. You could capture it in the studio, but for some reason live it just came out really just hard to hear. Mercury Rev was another example of a band that was like that back then. Nowadays, if you go see those artists, they can still be as intense and noisy and stuff, but they figured out a way technologically to present that to an audience where you don't have to walk out in pain. You know what I mean? Like, it can still be loud, the sound can be full, you can do all this noise and whatever, but it doesn't have to hurt you, and you don't have to be walking out of there going, oh my God, I think I just took 10 years off of my hearing life or whatever. So on that aspect, it was great, from there. So after Swervedriver played for about an hour, they took a quick break. They came out. Failure came out right after that. I stayed for about, maybe half of the Failure show, and not because I didn't like it, but because I'm old and it's an hour away, and I was getting really fucking exhausted. Plus, we'd had all this great weather, then it got super cold. It was back down to like 30 degrees. I was angry. I lost a client that day. Like, all sorts of bullshit was going on in my world at that moment. And I was just like, I got to drive an hour back home. I'm just ready to go. So I didn't see all of Failure, but what I did see was pretty great.
Every time you move the line, twist your view of the wheel, all the ways you could have handled it, you chose the right to conceal, you can't plead if you
Like Swervedriver, Failure has 2 new comeback albums. They had 3 albums in their original run. They've had 2 since they've been back. Swervedriver, 4 in their original run, 2 since they've come back. That doesn't include compilations and stuff like that. Failure is a little bit more hard rock-ish, metal-ish than maybe Swervedriver is, but I don't think it's far-fetched that you could like both, because I like both, and I think they're both incredibly talented bands. I will say this: Ken Andrews, one of the main guys in Failure, is also a sound engineer and a mixer, and he's been involved in a lot of different records that you've probably heard of over the years. Been involved in mixing. I know he's done Black Rebel Motorcycle Club and some other bands that he's worked with. So the sound was like just amazing, I mean, they are like technically perfect musicians. They're not just rockers or whatever, and they don't try to do anything chaotic or whatever. For them, it's an opposite thing from Swervedriver. It's like very, very precise and very technical, and they want you, not technical like noodling in terms of the playing, but in terms of how they want to present themselves and their sound. They were all black clothes, the lights were going certain ways. I mean, it was very, very good. The merch I got at the Swervedriver Failure Show was just a Swervedriver stuff. I got a Swervedriver stocking cap and a space mug. I wanted to get something from Failure, but I'd kind of blown my money on that. And I've also just been spending money on crazy shit unrelated to music, and I just was not, I was feeling kind of cheap on that night. I just didn't want to spend my money. You understand? So the last concert I'm going to talk about is Ex-Hex. This is a trio that's they record for Merge Records. The main feature of this band, or the main member of this band that you might know of, is a woman named Mary Timoney. She used to play in a band called Helium in the 90s. She also did a band with two-thirds of Sleater Kinney a couple of years ago called, what was it called? Wild. Anyways, I'll put a picture on there because for some reason I should do notes like I talked about earlier. I don't do notes. In this case, at Wild Flag. Oh my God, how could I have forgotten Wild Flag? It was Mary Timoney. It was Carrie Brownstein from Sleater Kinney and Janet Weiss from Sleater Kinney on drums, and then there was a fourth member who I just don't remember who that was, but she was part of the scene as well. But those were the three features. So I've seen Ex-Hex before. I've seen Wild Flag when they did their one tour, because they only did one album together, and then Sleater Kinney got back together, so there was no real need for Wild Flag anymore, unfortunately. I never saw Helium back in the day, though. I kind of liked them. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't a huge fan, but I did think they were pretty good, and I do have their greatest hits, or their a best of CD. That's kind of what I have of Helium at this point. So I got there. It was in Reverb, smaller place. I knew it'd be a pretty good crowd because Ex-Hex does have a bit of a buzz, Merge Records and all of that. The opening band was a group from the Northwest, maybe from Oregon or Seattle. I just don't know. They record for Sub Pop. They're called Moaning. Their sound was pretty interesting. They're definitely going on a Joy Division kind of late 70s, early 80s post-punk sort of sound. I thought they pulled it off pretty well. The lead singer looks like he's about 12, which is crazy, but he looked like a little kid, but he was great. Moaning set, really quick breakdown before Ex-Hex came on. Their set was shorter than I thought it would be for them being a headliner. They only played maybe 45-50 minutes, maybe an hour. I'm not sure exactly. I should have a better idea before I say what they played, but the set was great. Okay, they were so good. I was right on Mary's side of the stage, way on the side. The thing that's weird about Reverb is such a cool little spot, but you walk in from the back, okay, and it always seems like it's really crowded because for some reason people congregate towards the back and they don't go to the front. So when you walk in the door of the performance room, it just seems like, oh crap, the show's so crowded, I can't see anything. If you just kind of push a little bit in past the first couple of rows of people that are standing towards the back, you get clear shot right at the front. I mean, I had no problem getting right up to the front, and so that's why my footage is so good, because they were like right there. So one of the things that I, for some stupid reason, didn't seem to realize was that both of the women who play guitar in Ex-Hex both sing. I kind of thought just Mary Timony did, and even though I've even seen Ex-Hex before, and they were on my stage at Omaha in 2015, it didn't break through the dome here that they had two singers. So that was like a big revelation that they were trading off vocalists. They both played guitar, and I swear they were like Glenn Tipton and KK Downing up there, like just completely rocking out. They'd get up together and be like doing this thing, doing their twin guitar thing, and it was just awesome. This time they had a bass player involved, just a touring guy who was not with the band before, and the previous time that I saw them they weren't there, but he wasn't there. But it was cool. I mean, I had no problem with him. He filled out the sound a little bit. I don't think they needed it, but it was cool that they did it. They were just great. I mean, I don't know song titles from them. I have both of their albums, but I walked away from that set being like, that band is fucking great. And then I posted one of my pictures on Instagram of Ex-Hex, and one of the members, she officially liked it, which was cool. So hey, I got that going for me. I didn't stick around to try and talk to him. I would have liked to, but I just, it was a Saturday night, and we had other kind of places to go as soon as the show was over. But so anyways, that's all that I got for you. I didn't do Record Store Day this year, so those of you who are maybe anticipating a Record Store Day video coming from me, you won't be getting it. I just ignored it completely. I've had my own kind of Record Store Day with that Drastic Plastic thing, and with a record show being there, and I just decided this year, don't care. So I skipped it. Not a value judgment. If you went, I hope you had a good time. I hope you got what you wanted. Me, I just decided for the first time in the history of Record Store Day, I decided just to blow it off completely. Friends, I'll be back shortly. Take care. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.